Do the Baltimore Orioles have enough pitching to get it done in the American League East and possibly make it back to the postseason? Can the starting rotation get it done? I'm going to talk about it as my Baltimore Orioles 2023 season previews continue here on the Flex Zone podcast. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that bell for all your Orioles content. What's going on, Flex Zone family? God's favorite host, the host, I'm always back here on the Flex Zone podcast YouTube channel, only place giving you your sports how you want it when you need it. Back with another Baltimore Orioles 2023 season preview. We started with manager Brandon Hyde. We continue on as we take a look at the Baltimore Orioles starting rotation and do they have enough pitching and can they get it done this offseason? After the Mike Elias comments about this team being ready for liftoff this offseason, a lot of fans interpreted that as spending money on big-time free agents. And as a long-tenured Oriole fan or anybody who's familiar with how the Orioles and Mike Elias, especially in his regime, do things, they develop young talent before they go out and spend big. So I think liftoff was referring to primarily a lot of his young prospects that are expected to be big-time taking lift off, taking that next step to becoming a mainstay on the main roster and helping this team compete. Then they can go out possibly in 2024 and that offseason and spend more on certain things like the starting rotation. But do they have enough pitching? I think they are dealing with some injuries right now. Number one, first and foremost, John Means. He'll be back around the All-Star break. So that will be kind of like a midseason trade for the Orioles to boost their starting rotation, and they don't have to give anything up. And it's a guy who's proven, who's thrown a no-hitter, who was a front of the rotation guy, and he's a left-handed pitcher. You love a good lefty in your rotation when you're trying to do big things in the American League East. John Means, he does that for the Orioles, and he's a leader in and out of the locker room in the clubhouse. So they'll get him back. Felix Bautista, he's dealing with some injuries, but it looks like he'll be ready for opening day. Dylan Tate is out, but I would expect him back maybe by May. They have some guys. Would I have liked to see them maybe possibly make a trade for the right pieces with the Marlins or do something with one of these big-time free agents who probably weren't going to sign with the Orioles, but maybe make a run at a Corbin Burns in Milwaukee, possibly hitting into the All-Star break, could come up this season. But I would have maybe even just bought back Jordan Lyles to pair him with the addition of Kyle Gibson and Cole Irvin. Then you'll wait John Means. Then you have Bradish, Wells, and Grayson Rodriguez, DL Hall knocking on the door. Another low-cost guy. You can give him the money. He's a great leader in the clubhouse, out of the clubhouse, and he posts every start, every 5 days. He's going to post and do big things for you. I like the acquisition of Kyle Bradish. I think he's a slight upgrade over Jordan Lyles. He's a playoff, postseason proven guy, and I think he's been a former All-Star. He knows what it takes to win, and I think he can be a leader in the locker room, much like Jordan Lyles was. You look at Dean Kramer. Now he's going to be pitching Game 2 this coming week on Saturday against the Red Sox. Man bun, we call him. He's going to be pitching. He's going to be the number 2. He got lit up a little bit in spring this year, but he also pitched well, I think. And that happens. So I want to see what he can do because I think this is a poop or get off the pot year for Dean Kramer. Very important year for him to have a solid season. Can he be a wild card, dark horse X factor to get double-digit wins? Let's take a look at the depth chart while I'm talking about it. But like I said, Kyle Gibson, I think he brings that winning mentality. I think he brings that playoff experience, that leadership in the clubhouse. And I think a guy who's going to post when you need him to and can stop a losing streak. If your team is down, you can put the ball in his hands and he can do big things. Dean Kramer, as I mentioned, a big year for him as the number 2 guy. Can he stay healthy? Can he pitch effectively and win double-digit games possibly? And I think, you know what? I think Dean Kramer will win at least 10 games this season. I'm going to give Dean Kramer 10 games. If he's healthy, I'm giving him 10 games. Kyle Gibson, I'll give him 10 games. I think Kyle Gibson can win 10 games. Now, he might lose you 8 or 9, but I think Kyle Gibson can give you 10 to 12. So I got 10 with Gibson, 10 with Kramer. Cole Irvin, he can give me 10 wins, in my opinion. The acquisition from Oakland. Team control, arbitrarily controlled through 2026. a lefty in the middle of the rotation, a guy who's pitching obscurity in Oakland in that terrible stadium. But I think a guy who could bring something to this rotation, the left field wall that we know about for the Orioles, and what that has helped pitchers' ERA on this team go down. I think he'll do good, and he could be 10 games. Now, Bradish and Wells are the two wild cards, in my opinion, because Bradish had a great ending to that season last season. I think he showed he has potential. Came over in the Dylan Bundy trade. Tyler Wells pitched well, but he got hurt. But I think Wells is a guy who could win 6 or 7 games. I think Bradish is a guy who can win 7 or 8 games. So I do think that the Orioles could have a bold prediction, 3 guys with double-digit wins in the starting rotation. Right now, it looks like I have Kyle Gibson, Dean Kramer, and Cole Irvin winning 10 games. Yes, I'm drinking some orange Kool-Aid on the side here. You can't see it. It's not in view, but I think those 3 will give you 10 wins. Now, like I said, could each of them have 9, 10, 11 losses as well with those 10 wins? They could. Bradish, Wells, I think they could be in that 6 to 8 or 9 range. Bradish, I think he's a 9, knocking on the door, double digits if he's pitching like he's supposed to. And I think Wells can give you 7 or 8. And Wells and Bradish, especially Wells, have versatility to move to the bullpen if needed as well. I'll do a separate video on the bullpen as they have a little bit more injury-plagued situations. The big story today, no Grayson Rodriguez. He will start in the minor leagues in AAA. DL Hall will also start with him. I think DL Hall, they want him to be a starter. He ain't going to be a starter right now. Send him to the minor leagues. Let him continue to hone his craft and pitch well in AAA as he gets ready, because a spot is going to open up for him in this rotation, whether that's an IL stint for someone, an injury, a unproven or underperforming person. So I think we'll see DL Hall get some starts this year. Grayson Rodriguez, I think, is closest out of the two. Now, it was a little disappointing at first when I read it to know that, wow, out of 13 pitchers on his roster, Grayson Rodriguez is not one of the 13 best pitchers. But I know Michael Elias, Mindell, they have a plan. They have a patience is a virtue mentality. They're going to let him bake in the oven a little bit longer, probably within the first 2 to 3 weeks. And Grayson Rodriguez did not have the best spring. Now, we saw a sprinkle of what things that make him the number 1 prospect in baseball, the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball. But we also saw some inconsistency, some things where he struggled with some giving up some hits and the long ball and locating his pitch selection in the strike zone. So there are things that Grayson might need to work on for another 2 to 4 weeks. And we may not see him until the end of April, early May. But it is going to be imperative for this rotation, especially to get off to a fast start. And I'll get to that in my overall preview. But let me know. I think Kyle Gibson is going to win you 10 games. I got 10 games from Dean Kramer, 10 games from Cole Irvin. Give me that 7 to 9 for Kyle Bradish. He'll be knocking on the door possibly. And give me 6 to 8 for Wells if he's healthy as well. And I think, don't forget, if somebody underperforms, because I think these guys are going to get a lot of opportunities if they're healthy to pitch through April, May, June, before we get to a John Means being up, before we get to DL Hall and Grayson Rodriguez really knocking on the door of saying, okay, are they pooping or getting off the pot, or do they need to be on the Masson Express where they're getting shuttled between AAA and the majors? Because once they get up here, I don't want these guys to be shuffled back and forth. And I think Mike Elias has done a good job with managing the roster along with Brandon Hyde. I don't want to see guys shift back. I want to see them up here. So if it takes another month for these guys to be ready, it takes another 3 or 4 weeks for Grayson Rodriguez, another 5 or 6 weeks for DL Hall, but they're performing well in AAA. I don't want to see regression in AAA. I want to see improvement on things they struggle with and consistency and a little bit of sprinkle of domination here and there because their cream rises to the top. But let me know. I do think the starting rotation can get it done. As I mentioned, do they have enough pitching? Would I have liked to see them maybe add one more starter to put at the front of the rotation so Dean Kramer isn't depending on as your second starter? Possibly. But getting Cole Irvin was an underrated move, and I think they can get it done. We'll get to the bullpen, as I said in another video. But I got 10 wins for Kyle Gibson. I got 10 wins for Dean Kramer, 10 wins for Cole Irvin, and I think Bradish and Wells will hold their own. And I'm anticipating John Means when he comes back. I don't necessarily paint it into wins and losses for him. I think it's going to be more or less about him being able to get back to John Means slowly but surely by the end of this season, hopefully by August, September, where he's healthy and he has the ability to really come into the front of this rotation and dominate and be one of the best pitchers in the American League East and in the American League, an all-star caliber pitcher. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the starting rotation. Do you think there are 3 potential double-digit game winners in here? Ooh, Grayson Rodriguez is going to be up here at some point. DL Hall is going to be up here at some point. What happens with Tyler Wells? Does he go back to the bullpen? if there's a major injury. Do the Orioles have enough depth in the minor leagues? I think the rotation is going to be key, but if you can get 3 guys in this rotation, Gibson, Kramer, Irvin are my picks for now. I don't think Means will pitch enough. I think he may, if Means can get 3 to 5 wins, I'll be happy with it. Radish can give me, like I said, 7 to 9. Wells can give me 6 to 8. We're solid because the bullpen, I think, is going to save this team out a lot as well. That's why I want to preserve them as long as possible. They deal with some injuries. God's favorite host of the Morning back here on the Flex Zone podcast. Orioles previews continue. We talked about Brandon Hyde. We talked about starting rotation. Got a video on the bullpen coming next. Only place giving you sports how you want it when you need it. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that bell. Let me know your thoughts on the Orioles rotation. Do they have enough pitching and can they get it done? Signing off, y'all. Enjoy the tunes as we put the kids to bed. Flex Zone podcast, y'all. I'll see you for the next Orioles preview.